Hey guys, so in this video today I want to talk about Gen Z and how I actually have so much respect for them. If you watched my videos in the past, you know that I actually have technically said this before. I've talked about how I genuinely believe that Gen Z might be the generation to actually help us out of the hell we've been in since 2012 with the SJW culture. And looking into from when I said that to now, it looks like that is what's happening. Gen Z is shocking in a lot of ways. Even though they're still like 21 or younger, they really have a grasp on how the modern world is. Like, their generation, even more than mine, which is millennials, is pushing back against a lot of things right now. Number one, they are very, very aware of how good the past used to be, even though they didn't live in it. Like, they yearn for the 90s even more than millennials do. They just seem to be very aware of how good the world used to be before 2000, right? I'm noticing that a lot of Gen Z have now this one's not a good thing, but I think they think it is. But they're becoming a lot more religious than again previous generations. Now, if religion is good for them, fine, but in general, religion is bad, so whatever, I'll let that one go. But the thing is, a couple things come from religion that can be good. For example, a lot of you may have noticed that alcohol intake in Gen Z is considerably lower than previous generations. They're doing a lot less time wasting things like drinking alcohol or partying, going to clubs, etc. Of course, Gen Z is still doing that, but just considerably less. Now, part of this, and probably a large part of this, is that they simply can't afford to do these things anymore. Perhaps maybe they want to, but it also just seems like they want to put their focus into things that are a bit more important. Now, this can be bad because a lot of them might be missing out on fun as a result, but it does seem like part of it could be they just can't afford it, but generally speaking, they're a lot more focused on themselves. They're a lot more focused on, expanding their minds and learning and things like that rather than going drinking every single weekend. You will also notice the last like 5, 6, 7 years, Gen Z has been pushing back hardcore against woke culture. We're seeing a massive rise across social media of anti-woke YouTubers, but in the age group of like 15 to like 22, I'm seeing a huge rise of younger people who are anti-woke and standing up against the indoctrination that they see in school, pushing back against things they see when there's like anti-white racism and all that crap. They're fighting back a lot against when it comes to feminism and the man hating across, like they're really fighting back against all these things. I'm noticing it a lot more than I did 10 years ago. Again, this may not just be a Gen Z thing, it could just be because we're all getting sick of it as time goes on. But I'm also seeing that the people who are pushing back are, of course, people my age who are fed up, and Gen Z pushing back just because they simply know better, or because they were born into the bullshit, allowing them to see it better. But I will say that I really respect Gen Z. They were literally born after the world turned to shit, and they're coping really, really well. I mean, they they missed out on so many things from when the world was good, and I'll give you a list later, but but first I'll just say that it's amazing how they cope, because I know that if I have the knowledge I do now of how the 90s and before was and how good the world used to be, if I had the knowledge of that, but the experience of now, I would honestly be really miserable. The only reason I can even partially cope as a 36-year-old with today's world is because I can kind of look back at the 90s and be like, okay, yeah, life used to be good. I'm glad I was born there. Thank God. The world sucks now, but at least I have those memories. They literally don't have those memories. And you'll see that there are literally online trends. You may have heard about it. It's literally called rage baiting. It's where people do things deliberately really bad or stupid in order to get rage engagement. So, for example, examples of rage bait might be, and I see a lot of these on Facebook, people post fake stories that a lot of people think they're real, but they are fake. Just so you guys know, these stories are fake. It'll be a story like, a woman talking about how she cheated, but she's the victim because the man didn't forgive her. Like, there's all kinds of rage stories about going on dates, and here's why it turned out bad. And the person talking about the date being bad will be the cause of the problem, but they'll play the victim. And these are called rage bait. Like, they're stories that are obviously meant to just piss you off. They're not genuine, real stories from just crazy, dumb people. I mean, some of them are real because people are this stupid, but a lot of these stories are rage bait. And another example of rage bait would be, you may have seen these everywhere across TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, just everything. Cooking videos where they're cooking bad on purpose. And again, the whole purpose is to just piss you off and get you commenting about it. Rage bait exists in many capacities, but that's two of them. Now, the reason why people engage with these is because, well, here's what I think. I think people engage with rage bait not just because it's a trend and it's online and we're all terminally online now, but I think a large part of it is that basically what I think people are doing is they are embracing the fact that the world sucks, and they use rage bait as a form of entertainment to cope with the fact that the world is terrible. That may not make sense to you, but I do think a lot of people who engage with rage bait, or in general create rage bait online, are doing it because they know that the outside world sucks, so they use it as a coping mechanism online. I do think that is a huge reason. And going off that, I think it's obvious to say that the rage leads to engagement. And we know that Gen Z and now Gen Alpha is a lot more lonely than previous generations. You know, people really don't go out and do things as much as they used to. I'll get to that in a minute. So, rage bait allows for the largest amount of online engagement. So I think it also helps with coping with loneliness, because it doesn't matter if the engagement is good or bad. People just want engagement so that they have something to read or someone to talk to, someone to argue with. It's not positive, but I think people have become so lonely and isolated that they just want to engage with people, even if it's in a rage bait format. I think that's also another one of the huge reasons. I want to give you guys a list of the things that used to be really great about the old world that I don't think Gen Z will ever experience. And again, I'm sorry to give this list of here's the things you'll never get to see, but I just want people to know that the world you're living in, if you actually believe that the world you're currently living in is good, I want you to know, not to make you feel bad, but just to inform you that it's not. The world has gone to shit big time the last 20 years, because even just in my era, the 90s, things were even better before that, but even just from the 90s, things were so much better. Here's a list of things that I think Gen Z is never going to experience, and I spent a few days creating this list. Number one, and a big one by the way, is console gaming with your friends. This is a big one because, again, you'll notice that there's a theme about the modern world, which is that everybody is alone at home, just depressed and isolated. And all the things in the world that used to bring us together have just simply died. We know that when it came to old gaming on like the N64, the Super Nintendo, the PlayStation 1, a lot of games on those consoles involved couch co-op, which means that you play with your friends multiplayer, but in the same room together. Most games now are just one player or multiplayer, but they're online, where you have to be alone at home and talk to your friends over a video chat or a phone call. And console gaming was something that was really, really special for me growing up, and it's sad that Gen Z, again, will not really ever experience that. Going off of gaming, they're never going to experience gaming without downloads and microtransactions and shit like that. They're never going to experience the ability to bring a memory card to their friend's house to play your file on a game. If you don't know what I'm talking about. For example, the PlayStation 1 and the PlayStation 2 had a card that goes into the console, and all of your game files were on that. So you know how today, if you want to show your friend your file, you have to bring your PS5 to their house, right? But back in the day, as long as your friend had a PlayStation 2, all you had to bring was the game and the memory card. You take your memory card and put it in their console, and then boom, you could show your friend your file of the game. Restaurants with themes. Restaurants like McDonald's and Burger King Again, you may not know this, but McDonald's used to have a play area. They used to have this big play area with like the tubes and everything and slides and shit. I remember in the 90s, there used to be a Nintendo 64 in McDonald's. They used to have the tables and the chairs would be themed like the characters. For example, there'd be like a chair shaped like Ronald McDonald's head, or at Burger King, you would see the chair shaped like that, like the king, like the Burger King guy with the crown and everything. Taco Bell, they also used to have themed chairs and all that kind of stuff. But now, you go to McDonald's and all you're seeing is everything's gray, and you're just going there to eat. No other reason. Gen Z is never going to experience the magic that going to places like McDonald's and Burger King or Taco Bell or whatever actually didn't used to just be your lunch. It wasn't. It used to be like an experience. And again, I know this is hard to believe because it's like you go to McDonald's, you order your burger, and you leave, right? Or you talk to your friends. But the truth is, it actually used to be an experience. You used to be able to go and eat some food that was slightly real back then. First of all, the food was actually real back then. Two, it was like 10% of the price it is now. And the portions were also larger. While you're eating, you'd be laughing with your friends, playing on the N64, running to the play area and going down the slide, seeing all the colors. Like, it was colorful. McDonald's used to be colorful. It wasn't gray. There was, the table was blue, the chairs were red, the walls were yellow. Like, there was color. And it wasn't just McDonald's. Burger King was the same, Taco Bell was the same, Wendy's was the same. And in addition, with fast food restaurants, even the outside of the building used to have an appearance. Like, for example, McDonald's used to have like this red hat looking roof, right? Pizza Hut used to have a similar roof as well. Restaurants used to also have designs to them. I'm not even talking about how everything is gray now, but even like the architecture itself was different. You go to a fast food restaurant now, any of them, and what is it? It's just a square building, right? But that's not how it used to be. The buildings used to have architecture and unique walls and roofs and stuff. Another thing that is a death of us as being human beings and connecting with each other is Blockbuster. For those of you who don't know, Blockbuster is a video rental store. And something that was so magical for us on the weekend back in the 90s is it was Friday night. School was over. And what did we do? No, Gen Z, we did not just sit at home and turn on Netflix. We, as a family, our brothers, our sisters, our parents, we would drive to Blockbuster. Blockbuster was a video rental store which had a really cool blue roof on it, by the way. Again, architecture back then, even video rental stores. You'd go in, and there were videotapes everywhere of like movies, VHS tapes, and you'd see candy, and you'd see billboards and posters and all kinds of cool things. They even had a popcorn machine. It wasn't a movie theater, it was a video rental store, but they had a popcorn machine just because the world was good back then. And then you would, as a family, or you might see your friends and neighbors in the aisle next to you, you'd pick out the movie that you want to watch this weekend. And you go and you pay $5, you go home, you watch the movie, and then by Sunday night, you bring the movie back to Blockbuster. Now I know a lot of Gen Z might be thinking, it's kind of like, yeah, Matt, these things might have been fun back then, but there's upsides to today, like everything being fast and convenient. I don't have to drive to Blockbuster. You're right. But what Gen Z is failing to understand is that instant gratification is actually not a good thing. I understand how Gen Z feels about instant gratification because everything today is about instant gratification. Instant gratification to not need to go out and just simply watch a show on your TV. Or, movie theaters are too expensive these days. Back in the 90s, we would go to a movie theater every weekend. Today, though, movie theaters are too expensive, but people justify it by saying, well, yeah, but I don't need to go there because I can watch any movie I want on streaming services. Instant gratification. The instant gratification of not needing to wait a week for a new episode of a TV show because today you can binge watch shows on streaming services. Another example is doom scrolling on Instagram or TikTok. It's a quick 1-minute video. I got my 1-minute fix, on to the next video. What people fail to realize today, though, is that while these things are faster and more convenient, it does not mean they're better. Because you're missing out on something that is actually more important than instant gratification. You're missing out on human interaction, connection, and excitement. For example, when a new episode of a show would come out, let's say it only came out Thursday nights, you don't get to experience the joy of, oh yeah, hey, to your brothers and sisters, the new episode starts in 5 minutes. Let's say it's 7:55 and the new episode starts at 8 p.m. Quickly, come to the couch, the show's starting, get the popcorn, let's go, the new episode is out. Do you know how exciting that was? You're right, we did have to wait a week to watch a new episode of a show. But because it was weekly, it also gave us more excitement. It was exciting to finally be ready for your new show. You were at school all day. I can't wait for the new episode tonight. You'd be at school talking to your friends. Hey, did you hear the new episode of The Simpsons comes out tonight? Aren't you excited? Yeah, I can't wait to watch it. Do you want to come over and watch it with me? That connection is dead today. So yes, I understand that instant gratification is more convenient and it's faster. But again, because of instant gratification, you never feel excited for anything. A new movie means nothing. A new show means nothing. And there's other examples too, but this is another example of things you miss out on when instant gratification is the way of life. The next example is not being constantly connected to a cell phone. This also ties into instant gratification. So, for example, back in the 90s, if we wanted to make a phone call, we had a landline phone, which meant that it was a phone that was stuck to the wall. You couldn't take it with you, but it had a long-ass cord that goes to your ear. And where did your parents put that phone? Usually in the kitchen. Your parents did that, by the way, so that your parents could hear your phone call. But again, you might think like, oh, well, that sucks. I want to be able to make my phone call wherever I want. I want to be able to hide in my room so my parents can't hear me talk. I understand, that's the instant gratification. But, again, what you're missing out on is how special it was to make that one phone call. Back in the day, because the phone was being shared with your siblings and your parents, or because it was stuck in the kitchen, and you didn't want to just stand in the kitchen for an hour and talk, or sit on the floor of the kitchen and talk, you know what made it special? Calling that one friend that you really want to talk to. They've been busy all day, they're with their families, or they were busy doing homework, and now you're excited to call them up and have a nice conversation about the show you just watched, or the meal you just ate, or to say, hey, I'll meet you out front with my bike. We're gonna go for a bike ride now and go get some candy. Those phone calls were special because you weren't able to make them at every microsecond of the day. But with a cell phone, being able to take your cell phone when you want, where you want, and call, well, people don't call anymore, but being able to do that stuff, again, instant gratification, but you lose how special it was to even just make a phone call. Another thing we all used to do growing up, drink from a hose. It'd be summertime, we'd be outside with our friends, and we wanted a drink of water. We didn't even have to run back in the house. We could turn on the garden hose and drink some water. I mean, I suppose technically you still can today, but I wonder if even the water from the garden hose is less safe now than it was 30 years ago. This one I kind of already said, but I'll go into a bit more detail. Eating food that isn't just chemicals. Today you go to fast food, McDonald's, Wendy's, Burger King, Taco Bell, whatever. The food can barely even qualify as food. I'm sure people already know this one should be obvious, but yes, food is almost entirely chemicals now, but this is true. I know I'm using McDonald's as an example, but this is the truth. McDonald's actually used to have real food. The fries were real. The burgers had real beef. The chicken was real chicken. I'm dead serious. It really was. Same thing with Burger King. Same thing with all these fast food places. They used to have real food, and you were getting a larger portion of it, and you were paying less for it. Remember how earlier I mentioned how there were game consoles at McDonald's? Well, guess what? It wasn't just at fast food restaurants. I remember even going to the dentist, and there would be a game console there. Yes, there was. There'd be a PlayStation 1 or an N64. Gen Z is never going to get to experience a waiting room at a dentist office or a doctor's office with a game console in the room. Gen Z is never going to be able to watch a show or a movie that isn't filled with SJW propaganda. And I said this in my Hollywood video, check it out, but it is true. Back in the day, you could watch a movie or a show and they didn't just repeatedly talk about how men suck, or feminism good, or black people good, or white people suck. It's true. I know that's hard to believe today because everything is just filled with SJW propaganda everywhere. Oh, trans this, black this, white this, Trump this. But it's true. Back in the 90s and before, you used to be able to watch a show or a movie and they would tell jokes that weren't just about politics. It was a fun time to be able to disconnect from the real world. Not only was the real world better back then, but even then we could disconnect from it. Now, the real world is worse, but you're forced into it at all times. Back in the day, we could keep something, whether it be technology, clothing, furniture, kitchen appliances. You know where I'm going with this one. We used to be able to keep our stuff for more than a year without it breaking. If you want to see what I mean, I urge you to watch this video called Old versus New, where I talk about how old stuff lasted longer back in the early 2000s, the 90s, and before. Now, technology, because of planned obsolescence and everything else, is meant to break quicker in order for companies to make more and make more money. But the past wasn't like that. Check out this video and you'll see what I mean. One more thing about fast food that was really cool back in the day. Now, Happy Meal toys at McDonald's are just dinky little plastic pieces of shit. We used to get, back in the 90s, we used to get really cool toys. We used to get cool things like, I remember they had like these collectible Coca-Cola glasses. We used to get Tamagotchis. We used to get Tiger electronic games. Now, they sucked, but as a Happy Meal toy, they were the fucking greatest thing in the world. Certainly better than the plastic pieces of garbage you get today. We used to get really cool Happy Meal toys with collectible items and stuff like that. Tim Hortons, if you don't know what it is because maybe you don't live in Canada, Tim Hortons is a Canadian coffee shop, much like Krispy Kreme in the US. And this is another thing that's true, because before 2014, Tim Hortons used to actually bake their donuts fresh in the restaurant. Now, everything is sent on a truck, frozen, and they microwave it. And here's the sad thing. I have literally heard so many people say, oh, Tim Hortons was always mediocre. Who cares about going there? Except here's the thing. It wasn't always mediocre. Before 12 years ago, Tim Hortons was actually amazing. Actually amazing. It used to be a Canadian staple to where if you're going on a road trip, let's say you're driving to the cottage for the weekend, it was always the Canadian tradition to stop at Tim Hortons and get your coffee, your donuts, your sandwich, whatever it might be, and you're on the road. It used to be a tradition because Tim Hortons was the Canadian icon. The food was great, the food was cheap, and it was always the place to go before you hit the road and head over for a nice cottage country life weekend. And it felt great. Now what's Tim Hortons? Tim Hortons is a microwaved frozen garbage with terrible service because of a certain race that works there now over the last 12 years. The food is now 4 times the price it was even just 10 years ago, and never mind 20 years ago. The food is extremely mediocre. The sandwiches taste like they came out of the microwave because they did, and they're always prepared badly. But I tell you, as someone who's a millennial, Tim Hortons used to be amazing. It's genuinely depressing that Gen Z thinks that Tim Hortons is mediocre because it is now. They'll never know how good Tim Hortons was 15 years ago. Gen Z might be shocked to hear that going to the movies every weekend was normal. You're probably thinking like, whoa, I can only afford the movies once a month if I'm lucky. You're right. But back in the day, things like movie theaters or even festivals or concerts used to be affordable. Going to a concert 20 years ago didn't cost 2 of your paychecks. No. it may have costed 20% of one of your paychecks. But now, nobody can afford anything. The movies didn't used to be $45. It used to be $8. Going to a festival wasn't $10. They used to be free. I'm not lying to you. It's true. And again, I feel really bad for Gen Z because they can't afford concerts and festivals and movies anymore. They prefer, I'll just stay home and play some games or doom scroll. But back in the day, it used to be a weekend thing to not go to parties per se, but even just outdoor festivals or movie theaters or concerts, because they used to be more common, they used to be good, and they used to be cheap. Did you know that MTV used to play music? I'm serious, they really did. Now, I know that MTV, the last like 15 years, just plays like garbage, trash TV shows with a lot of SJW stuff too. But actually, back in the 90s, MTV, which stands for Music Television, by the way, used to actually play music. And they even had really cool music shows. I'll give you an example of one of them I used to love. One of the shows on MTV used to be where they would play music videos over and over and over. Like it was a cycle of music videos from different artists. And while the video was on, little bubbles would appear on the screen with fun facts about the music video. I forgot what the show was called, but that was one of the great shows on MTV that I used to love growing up. Today, Gen Z doesn't even know that MTV played music. They don't even know that. But not only did MTV play music, but they played good music and had good music-themed TV shows too. When I was visiting my parents live in the country, I saw this. Back in the day, going to a park used to be free. Based on where you live, you might be saying, yeah, Matt, it still is. But not everywhere. I was visiting my parents a couple months ago, and all of the like park areas, whether if they were beaches or they were like those lookout areas up in the mountains and you could like look and see all the forestry or like the whole town down below, or even just like pathways that people like to walk on, I couldn't believe it when I saw that there was a ticket booth and a bar blocking it, and you gotta pay $5 or $10 to go in. Imagine that. Today, in some places, you have to pay just to go to a park and walk around. But 20 years ago, they were all free. Now, there is a reason for it. It's not just modern day greed, though that's part of it. But the other part of it, and I don't want to sound racist, but what I'm saying is true, there is a certain race of people who tends to be very dirty and pollute everywhere, and they'll stay there all day and just disturb everybody. I won't say which race tends to, but I'm sure if you're smart, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a certain race of people who loves to disturb everybody, be loud, throw dirt and garbage everywhere. Just people who make a mess wherever they go. You know what I'm talking about. And because of that, they decided that in order to deter those people from going, they started charging for entry just into basic parks, which caused those people, because they also tend to be very cheap, to stop going, and then only the people who were more clean would go to them, but having to pay. It's always nice when diversity, let's just say diversity. It's always nice when diversity ruins all the good stuff for us, isn't it? Here's a big one that I'm sure Gen Z will agree with immediately. We lived in a world without AI. Here's one. Now, I don't eat cereal, but I'm guessing this doesn't exist anymore. Cereal boxes used to have toys in them. Yep, I'm completely serious. Google it. Here's one that goes back to the human part of us, human connection and communication. Dating without swiping on an app. Because, believe it or not, I know people will say like, oh, well, we don't go to bars anymore because women will say that we're harassing them just for saying hi. You're right. But that didn't used to happen. Believe it or not, 20 years ago, women didn't hate men. It used to be normal for a man to say, Here, I bought you a drink, and then start a conversation. And back then, because women didn't hate men, feminism didn't force women or brainwash women to hating men. So it was actually normal for a woman to say, "Oh, thank you very much. How's your night going?" Today, though, no one can do that because men are unfortunately, but rightfully, afraid to even talk to women because they're afraid that they'll say, "Oh, you're a rapist," or harassing me just for saying hi to me. Because of feminism and SJW culture, that's the world we live in now. But it's not the world we used to live in. It used to be normal for men and women to talk at bars. Another one that kind of goes into the human part of it, owning physical media. Again, you could say that it's much better and even cleaner to just have everything downloadable on your TV, your streaming services, or free games on your consoles. But no, because one of the special things about physical media was having it in your hand, opening up the box and seeing that beautiful booklet which had all kinds of cool little fun facts about the game or artwork about the game. Physical media used to be a beautiful thing. But now, even if you do buy physical media, they don't even have books in them anymore half the time. And again, people don't have things to look at. And in this video, which you should watch, but I'll explain it a little bit here, is how because the game or movie is digital, you miss out on things like the blooper reel. That was a great thing that DVDs used to have. Another thing is, and we've seen this a lot the last decade or so, is that because so many things are offensive now because of SJW culture, they will literally change scenes in movies or TV shows because they're no longer considered politically correct. But if you had the physical DVD in your hand from 20 years ago or whatever, they can't change that, right? They can't remove TV shows that you love off of a streaming service because they lost the licensing if you have it in your hand. This is one of the things that physical media avoids. How about this? Did you know that dollar stores actually used to be a dollar? It's true. You go to a dollar store today, and the prices range from $1 to about $5, sometimes even higher. That's not a dollar store, is it? But they used to be. I'm dead serious. If you went in a dollar store in the year 2000 or before, every single thing, not just the candy, everything in the store cost $1. I actually remember going into stores myself that were dollar stores and literally seeing that every item there was $1. Gen Z will never experience the magic of Pokemon cards. You may have heard recently, but scalpers have completely destroyed what made Pokemon cards special. I remember Pokemon for me was a magical thing. You and your friends collecting cards, going out for recess at school and passing cards to your friends. You would trade cards, or if you had a Game Boy, you were playing red, blue, and yellow, gold, and silver version on your Game Boy, and you would put the two consoles together, your friend's Game Boy and your Game Boy, to do mystery gift. Pokemon was a magical thing back then. What's Pokemon today? Pokemon today is all just about collecting and scalping and beating people up in stores. Pokemon, even the magic of Pokemon has died. One of the greatest communication tools we ever had back then was MSN Messenger. MSN Messenger was a beautiful, magical thing. I loved it. Look, think about your Facebook window chat. But what can you do on Facebook Messenger? You just talk, right? MSN Messenger, which was 25 years ago, was way more advanced than Facebook Messenger. Try to find a YouTube video where they talk about MSN Messenger, but I'll just tell you how I saw it back in the day. First of all, you had a chat window. And on the side, you could literally put games like Minesweeper and play them with your friend. Like, literally, your friend is at home, and you're on home talking on Messenger, but you could play a game on your chat window. You could literally take the chat window and draw images on it. On your screen where all of your friends' names were, you could change your username whenever you wanted. You could literally put, if you were listening to music on your computer while talking, there was a feature where it would show the name of what song you're listening to that your friends could see it. MSN Messenger had a nudge button. Like, for example, there was a button where you would type, and it would say nudge. You'd press it, and the whole screen would go like, and your friend on the other side would actually, their screen would go like. MSN Messenger was the greatest thing. You gotta love how MSN Messenger, which is like 25 years old, is far more advanced than anything you're seeing today. Here's another one going back to movie theaters. Do you know what a drive-in is? A drive-in, which usually, they don't exist in cities, usually in the old country town you'd see a drive-in, but a drive-in is basically an outside movie theater. You would drive your car up to the screen, you had to turn your radio, because your radio would actually mimic the sound of the screen. You had to go to a very specific station. The people at the front would tell you what station it is. You turn it up on your radio in your car, and you could hear the audio of the movie. A lot of families, what they would do is they would park their car backwards, open up the trunk of their car, and lay down in their car while watching a movie. Do you have any idea how amazingly and magical that was to experience? One of the greatest things ever was a drive-in. Okay, now with that being said, a lot of you also know how much I hate AI slop. I can't fucking stand it. But sometimes people make videos that not only show you something cool, but at least show you something real. And I found a few AI videos that actually show what the 90s used to be like, and this is not made up. This is actually what it was like growing up in the 90s, because I lived in it. So I wanted to give you an idea through these videos what the old world used to be like when life was good.
So apparently in the future you buy a house, but then you pay the bank twice what the house actually cost.
Referencing how the cost of houses today is not anywhere near what they're actually worth.
Why wouldn't you just not do that? In the future, one tank costs more than a week of groceries? How is that even allowed?
Yep.
You have to pay to watch TV in the future.
Well, you had to pay for cable back then too, but they're talking about all the streaming services and how they all have a different amount to them. And if you're using, I would say if you're using more than 2 streaming services, you're actually paying more than cable.
And there's still ads.
And there's still ads, yep.
Isn't that the whole point of ads? People in the future pay $4 for a bottle of water. It comes out of the hose for free. Mum just bought a bag of groceries for like $12. In the future, that same bag costs more than she earns in a whole day. In the future, people don't meet at school discos or anything. They just look at photos on a phone, send a message.
Yep.
That's actually really sad.
Yep.
In the future, there's no video easy. Instead, you pay for like 7 different things on the telly and there's still nothing to watch. In the future, it costs more to insure Dad's Commodore than he paid for the whole car. It's not even fancy. Kids in the future don't go outside. They just stare at a screen all day. They don't ride bikes, they don't get muddy, they just sit there. In the future,
it's true.
You carry a phone in your pocket that costs more than Dad's car. Why? In the future, people pay $700 a week just to rent room. Not a house, a room. Like this one. Every road in the future costs money to drive on. Every single one. Even the one to Nan's. Houses in the future don't have backyards. I'm not joking. No backyard. Where do you put the clothesline? Where do the kids play?
Anyway, I'm not going to keep showing you these videos because there's a whole ton of them, and I bet you've already seen them yourself as you're doom scrolling Instagram. There's a ton of these AI videos. I just wanted you to know that these videos, while they are AI, they are accurate. What they show, the imagery, the appearance of the buildings, or what the kids are saying, is accurate about the old world being more connected, more real, more genuine, less hateful. These things are real, and I want to say that I really respect Gen Z for managing to survive in the modern world despite the fact that it's a total opposite of what it used to be. I yearn to go back, not for nostalgia, but because it was objectively, factually better. And I respect people who can manage today, but do so, coping in strange ways. But anyway, I just wanted you to see it so that you knew what it was like, and that when people who are older talk about the old world, it's not just about nostalgia or because it's our past. It's because this is how the world really was, for the record.